DoneJS contributors meeting. Today is St. Patty's Day 2017. And today on the core team, we have Justin.
Hello.
Hello. Kevin, both Kevins. You can
Hello.
Simultaneously, you can individually say hello. In unison? Maybe work on in unison next time. Cool, and I'm Jason. We're also joined by Joel. Say hi, maybe. Yeah, he's waving.
Welcome, Joel.
I got noise in the background, sorry, but yeah, how you guys doing?
Okay. And Mike.
Howdy, y'all.
And Obaid.
Thanks.
Hey, so let's start off with statuses. I'll start. So last week, or this past week, I applied to some conferences and reached out to some meetup groups and helped some other people contact some local meetup groups. I started syncing our GitHub issues, or GitHub labels, so that all of the labels would be consistent across all of our repos. Kind of hit some snags into that, and it's so I'm hoping to eventually finish that up next week. And then yesterday I published the new on CanJS.com recipes blog post, just announcing that we have a recipe section on our site again. Next week I'm off on Monday, and then I'll be reaching out to more blog and tutorial sites and helping contact more meetup groups. So that's my status. Justin, you want to go?
I've been working on upgrading the CanJS training material. So it'll be hopefully with the end of, like, I would say, or midway through next week, there will be all brand new 3.0 training material. So if anybody out there wants to either hire us for a training, or they can use our training material and go through it for themselves at their company, there will be all these PowerPoint and Keynote slides and examples and things like that to walk through.
Awesome, sounds good. Kevin Dillon.
So I really didn't contribute that much to this week, unfortunately. All I did was change the package JSONs to be post-publish rather than post-version, which should help with some of the build stuff. Yeah, other than that, there's not a lot coming from me. I do have a couple questions for you guys, though, about where you want to go with certain things going forward. And I think that I have at least one of those questions already submitted in last week's DoneJS forum, so I'll add it to this week's, and hopefully we'll have time to get to that.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. Kevin Phillips.
Yep, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Couple things this week. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So the first thing was we released CanJS 3.5.0. Couple new ecosystem things: can connect SignalR and can validate JS, which are awesome. And then just a ton of bug fixes. You can see all of these different releases. The next thing is we are soft releasing DoneJS 1.0. So you can see so far all of these projects have released DoneJS 1.0 final versions, which is nice. We haven't updated the website for DoneJS 1.0, but we have published it at this separate URL. If you want to take a look at the guides that are available for DoneJS 1.0 and go through them and submit any issues that you find, that would be awesome.
Sweet, looks great. And then next week?
Yeah, and then next week I am working to help a client upgrade to CanJS 3. So I'll primarily be doing that, and then I hope to also work on DoneJS Mocha so it supports 1.0 because it hasn't been done yet. So that should be it probably.
Cool, sounds good. I think that's everyone on the core team. Before we move to topics, does anyone want to bring up anything else before we move on?
Yes, I know why I had my problem now. It's because in GitHub ignore index.html is ignored. And
okay.
So all of my index.htmls were being ignored, and I didn't realize it. I'm going to have to find out a way to not to turn it off so it's just, if I put / in front, will it just do only the main folder? I know I shouldn't be asking for support questions, but like.
So like in the git ignore, it just has like on one line it says .html, and that was ignoring everything that ended with .html.
I'll find it out. But yeah, so that's why I lost all my index.html files. So, anyways, I'll figure that out. But this should probably go. Yeah.
Good luck. Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
I think you can do the /, Justin. It looks like.
Cool. Anything else before we move on to topics? Cool. All right. I posted first. And so I wrote in as a topic future of BitDocs, document CSS, and document.js. This wasn't supposed to be like a huge discussion about their futures, actually. Joel, Justin, and I were having a conversation on Monday that I thought would just be good to bring up quickly. Because I had previously thought that our natural progression would have been since BitDocs was a fork of document.js, natural progression would have been to eventually merge BitDocs back into document.js. And just brought up a really good point that we have document.js and document CSS that kind of target different audiences or needs. Like our design team at Bitobi uses document CSS for their style guides. So my understanding from what you were saying earlier this week, Justin, is that it'll serve us better if BitDocs and all of the BitDocs packages are kind of the underlying plumbing that can make it really easy for us to produce a document.js or produce a document CSS that is targeted at specific needs. So BitDocs isn't going to be, merged back into document.js. It's going to live as its own separate project. Is that an okay summary of what we talked about last week or earlier this week? Is that a fair?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I would think about it is that BitDocs, and it of course can be renamed to whatever it is. I look at it as a framework for static site generation, right? And then there's a lot of different reasons why you might want to generate static sites. You might want to do documentation for JavaScript projects, or do style docs, or you might want to do a blog someday, or whatever it is. It's designed to be written with a bunch of plugins for any kind of static site generation. So that's kind of how I see it.
Cool. Okay, so hopefully that was a okay explanation. And I just wanted to bring it up because I hadn't thought about it that way before. So I thought it would be good to bring up here.
I'd say one thing that kind of was like an aha moment for me with that was realizing that you could have like your own generator, your own finders. So I'm going to find JavaScript files and look through those. I'm going to find Markdown files, look through those, whatever file you want to look through. And then you have like BitDocs, which kind of like pulls that in, and then sends it to a generator, which is like another like going out plugin, and that'll put it out to HTML or put it out to like maybe a doc format of some other kind, like a PDF or something. So you just write your own finder, your own generator, and then BitDocs kind of is in the middle with some default finders and generators that come with it.
Yeah, that's a good overview of how it works, and it's great that you're working on documenting all of the the different parts and the flow of how BitDocs works. That's really, really valuable. Okay, anything else on this before we move on? Cool. Joel, you posted next. And you said need help with a specific BitDocs issue. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to discuss like in the meeting. I would say more than anything, like I know I'll be off on Monday, but I'm happy to pair with you and try and work through the issue when I'm back on Tuesday or sometime next week. I don't know if there was anything that actually required our discussion of that issue.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything useful to everyone here, so we'll put it later. Nothing urgent, so.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. And then Kevin Dillon, we are definitely getting to the func unit issue. So you want to talk about that?
Okay, so this is just func unit comes prepackaged with a particular version of jQuery, and it is the full like plain text version of jQuery. And I was just wondering what you guys thought about that. It definitely bloats the file. It makes it so that you can't, so that, I don't know if you can't, but it definitely would make it more difficult to use a different version of jQuery. So I was just curious if you guys think that packaging jQuery as part of func unit is a good idea or not. So on the pro side, func unit is more portable if it has jQuery built in. You don't have to bring that with you. So it's potentially easier to use. So it's easier to ramp up for new people to start using func unit. And you sort of also tie your func unit to a particular version of jQuery so that you don't accidentally have some kind of incompatibilities coming in. But on the con side, it definitely bloats the code. The documentation currently says that you can use other versions of jQueries, and it's a little bit deceptive as to which version you're using. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So what's your take on packaging func unit as part of, or packaging jQuery as part of func unit?
I think Justin is probably going to be most opinionated about this, and I mean that in a good way, not in a not in a bad way. Just because I know I've only used func unit a little bit, and my naive opinion is that we shouldn't be packaging jQuery with it. So you know, the users of the package have free reign to use whatever jQuery they think is, or you know, whatever jQuery they're using on their project. But I don't know enough to have a strong opinion about it.
So yeah, my opinion is that like they shouldn't have free reign to use whatever jQuery they want to use on their project, because you know it's just like we depend on, like it makes it's going to make it even more complex when you start saying like, oh well, first let's break up two things. What project someone picks to use on their project, like they use jQuery on their project, that's kind of irrelevant. Func unit is in a lot of ways like kind of like black box texting or whatever. It's just supposed to simulate clicking. If they use jQuery 3.0 and func unit uses jQuery 1.11, as long as we don't like interfere with what they're going on, it shouldn't matter, right? The reason why it's also nice is like, the only benefit is the load time of func unit. And because it's loaded in a test scenario and it tends to be just loaded once for the entire life cycle of that page, I've never thought that was a big burden. It's not like it's, you know, their production code we're packaging this version of jQuery. So that's why like I've always thought that it's best just, it's because it's so much easier. It's like, here's your script tag. You just load func unit and that's it. That's done. There's nothing else to load or worry or configure. I've always felt it's worth it in func unit's case, where it's different than a lot. Like if this were CanJS, absolutely don't include it. But this is because of the you want that flexibility for people to be able to use different versions of jQuery, and you want them, you know, and it works in production mode. But here it doesn't matter. I don't know if that makes sense. I just thought like ease of use. If it depends what our goals for the library are, right? To me, the goal of the func unit, at least to get users for it, if that's what we want, is to make it as easy to start with as possible. That's to me what matters. That's what I think users will care about in the beginning if we want to get more people using func unit. So I lean heavily, I guess I lean pretty strongly to the side of leaving it in.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should make it so that users of FuncUnit don't need to know that FuncUnit internally is using jQuery and using its own version of jQuery. If it just looks like users, they pass a selector to FuncUnit and it does whatever it does, then I think that's better than either making them include jQuery or telling them it's a specific version or whatever.
Yeah, if our docs are saying like don't, like you can use your own version of jQuery, maybe we should change that. Because it really should just be like, the only reason why we use jQuery is like, here's this familiar API, right? Like it's in some ways was a lazy way of us documenting FuncUnit's APIs is like, hey, we don't have to document everything good because you know jQuery, so then just apply that to FuncUnit.
And I think that's not as useful nowadays. And it's really more of just like a lazy way of browser support, I guess. Or not even lazy, like an easy way of supporting different browsers.
So if the only benefit to moving jQuery out of FuncUnit is load time and loading and stuff like that, why are we not using the minified version of jQuery? Would it not work for some reason?
Is it, I mean...
I think it's the full text version.
Well, presumably it tends to be we use the full text version for everything in development and the minified version of everything. So I guess I would just expect the full FuncUnit plain text would come with a full plain text jQuery, because it's always just, at least for me, if I'm in like kind of development mode, it's just nice to see that. But you do bring up an interesting point, which is like, well, I guess, do we need... It's an interesting consideration is that you probably don't want full text of both FuncUnit and jQuery if, like, once you kind of move to your like staging tests. Like there's almost like a production for tests where you could have your tests run a little bit faster because FuncUnit's minified. We don't really have anything for people in those scenarios. I mean, we could do two. We could release two, like two kind of modules. It's like a FuncUnit.min.js that people could require that, or you do FuncUnit / we got to decide what the default is, and then a FuncUnit / like min.js that if you want the minified with jQuery minified, you can just point there if you're like, I'm comfortable not having to ever read or debug what's going on inside this code base.
Okay. Well, I think that's probably a future thing. I don't quite want to get into that right now because I do think that there is value in people who are using FuncUnit to know sort of what's going on in FuncUnit and not have a minified version, because ideally we want them to be updating stuff and then joining this conference call, right? So
yeah.
So maybe that would deter people. I'm just mostly thinking about the having jQuery minified in FuncUnit, which it might be because the latest version that we kind of got outside of the regular build process, so it might not have gone through everything. I don't know. So, but I think that pretty much answers my question as to whether or not FuncUnit should include jQuery.
Yeah, I just think it's easier for people. I think that's...
Yeah, it's definitely... So the requirement for jQuery to use FuncUnit, is that just if we're using QUnit in the documentation?
No, that's how, like, so when it's doing its selectors and reading attributes and everything like that, it's always doing that through jQuery.
Right, but so if we're using QUnit as a runner, that also needs jQuery, right?
No, I don't think QUnit needs jQuery.
Really? Okay.
Pretty sure.
I might be wrong about that.
It's part of the jQuery project, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't need jQuery.
Okay. Well, that definitely simplifies stuff. So then we should update that doc.
There's also an issue open where FuncUnit is setting window.jQuery, and we really need to fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Yeah, is it shouldn't, if anybody has jQuery currently on their site, it should not like cause them any problems with our version of jQuery.
Okay, that makes sense to me from the perspective I started out with. I didn't realize that we were just using jQuery internally to func_unit, and we shouldn't be exposing what version of jQuery we use to people who are using func_unit. That makes sense to me. Anything else on this topic? Cool. I think that was everything for today. Does anyone have anything else before we go?
I've got a couple other things I could bring up if you guys are willing to stick around for
Real quick,
minutes.
yeah, I absolutely want to hear them. But jQuery or CanJS 3.5 is out if anybody's watching. So what does it come with, Kevin?
Can't connect SignalR and can validate.
What was that? Kevin
Can't connect SignalR and can validate. Can
oh yeah,
validate,
so
validate
the
JS.
SignalR allows you to connect, like, so .NET people all use SignalR, I guess. That's their version of Socket.io. So we have a library that makes it easy to connect to SignalR real-time service layers now. That's really nice. And the next thing that we've done is we've made can validate and can validate JS, right?
Yep.
So, but not the can define validate yet, though. That's not released?
I think that one's already, wasn't that already in?
I don't
that was
think so.
already in.
Oh, really? Can define validate JS?
Oh no, does that exist?
Yeah.
It's under ecosystem right now.
Can define validate JS?
Yes.
Or just can validate JS? Okay.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Can define validate
Okay,
JS.
cool. Yeah. I know it's very long-winded. So like this is like a thing that we're doing, and we're gonna do this, kind of finish off doing this with the streaming Kefir stuff. And this is just how CanJS is going. This is this blog article that I keep meaning to write, which is about how we are integrating with third-party things. So like, it's going to be kind of a very common pattern is we have can validate, which this is basically just defines what a validator should look like. And then we kind of have different modules that are bindings to making what we expect for a validation function. Like it makes it so that we can use validate JS's validators with what the rest of CanJS might expect from a validation function. And then so that's like that's kind of like makes a base level validation library. So like you can load this as a make validator, and it makes validation functions that CanJS can understand using validate JS's validations. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyways, and then it makes functions that you can validate different values or objects and things like that. But then where it gets really cool is then there's this can define validate JS, which is basically a decorator or like a mix-in function. So you can define your types. Here's define map with its name property, and or I'm making this user type, and I can say, hey, that's going to have validations on it. And it's going to kind of crawl through your property descriptors, find validations, and also add this errors method so you can know if, like, you know, you can get the validation errors based off of this, and it's designed to work with validate JS. So it's a mouthful because it's like it's can define adding validations, but validations that are integrated with validate JS. So we don't call things can define validate anymore because there might be other validation libraries we want to support. So that's why it's like can stream Kefir as well. So it's wordy, but this is all dating back to CanJS's overarching goal, which is to make it so that if in the future we don't like validate JS anymore, there's a cool new validate library, well, that's fine. Your old validate JS modules will still work. We'll just have a can validate JS, better validate JS module. So yeah, that's a I don't know. I like where this is. It's a little wordy, but it should mean that code is more stable for people using these CanJS ecosystem utilities.
So question. So we have can stream and can stream Kefir right now. Should can stream be moved to legacy?
I was just looking at that. I think that's a bug. CanStream was renamed to CanStream Kefir. So I don't know why CanStream is still showing up there in the sidebar.
Okay.
So no, it shouldn't be moved to legacy, but we need to figure out why it's there.
When it was published, the node modules didn't get deleted, and it was both were in there, so that's probably why.
Okay, I can try to redeploy the website.
Well, I'm about to redeploy, and I've done a full clean, so don't worry about it. It might just go away when I do it.
Okay, because it doesn't show up on the main collections page, homepage. So
okay, yeah. Anyways, so that's it for me. Yay, 3.5 is out.
Cool.
Kevin, do you have?
Yeah, Kevin, did you want to bring up some things? Kevin Dillon.
So the only other thing that I really was interested in bringing up, it's sort of a trivial thing. Right now, we use brackets to do in func-unit and then syn to do things like modifier keys and backspace and all that stuff. And that's how we specify that. But if you're trying to, obviously at the MathWorks, we use brackets quite a bit for, typing in arrays and stuff like that. And I think that gets sent as a single chunk, so we don't get individual key events. I was just wondering what you guys think about adding another like bracketed attribute for like left bracket and right bracket, or not attribute, but not really sure what you call it.
You talking about like an escape key to mean left? So someone entered left bracket. That's the problem.
So if you enter left bracket and you put in text, it doesn't get. You don't actually send all of the individual key presses. The way that it parses out as a single block.
So I have something like, you're saying like, okay, I do ABC shift or something. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And then DEF or something like that?
Hold on 1 second. I gotta blow this up. Sure.
Okay, and then what are you saying happens?
So that's fine. I expect that to work. You get a shift down and DEF, although the DEF won't be capitalized, and we have a support request for that. So that's a completely different issue. But if you type in, let's say you want to type shift, how would you do that?
Well, I mean, you can do that, right? You mean type shift with bracket shift? Yeah.
Yeah.
We need some kind of escape, right?
Okay.
Yeah, does escaping it.
Does that currently work?
No, maybe. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It may.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Well, I can try it out, but we definitely have to document it no matter what.
Yeah,
but
something like that could work though. We could just make it so there's an escape. You can just escape, and then it ignores the normal what shift would do or what bracket means. It just would put a normal bracket in.
Yeah, we could do that. Sure. That seems much more elegant than having like a bracket that's like left bracket, and a bracket that's like right.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. That's what you're thinking. Like you could do.
That'd be ugly.
Yeah, you could do like that. Is that that's what you're thinking? Kind of like that, and then you would do.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really hideous.
Yeah.
Let's try the escape system first.
Yeah, I think escape works probably pretty good. It gets very meta because then if you want to have people enter, but then they would have to go like this. You know what I mean? If they want to enter, you have to think about like what happens when they want to actually enter /.
Yeah.
It can be a little tricky.
So we can discuss this offline, but it was just something that I ran into yesterday. I had one of my clients internally trying to do stuff with arrays, and she was getting all confused. So,
is there an issue open for this already, or this idea? Okay, would you mind filing an issue, please?
Sure.
Sweet. Cool. Anything else before we go? Nope. All right. Thanks everyone for coming to the meeting. Everyone who's watching the live stream, thanks for watching. Or if you're watching this on YouTube afterwards, thank you. And see you guys next week. Bye.
See ya. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jason.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Later all.